Hello, welcome back to Search Sean. This is another Chat with Sean episode, and yeah, really, really excited about this one. I have been for a while. Two friends of mine on the show, so yeah, it's going to be really good. I'll do the quick intros, and then it's literally I'm handing it over, and I don't know what's going to go on, but I know it's going to be very interesting all around user behavior, search behavior, everything that people are talking about right now. So very, very interesting. So I'll get onto the intros and we get cracking. So yeah, first of all, we have Giulia Panozzo, an in-house director of customer acquisition and founder of Neuroscientive, where she combines neuroscience and marketing to create data-driven strategies that truly engage. With degrees in neuroscience and psychobiology, Giulia brings a scientific edge to marketing, supported by her background in advanced brain research. She's a recognized speaker at top industry events like Brighton SEO and SMX. And after that, we also have the fantastic Myriam Jessier, who is SEO and technical brand visibility consultant and the leading voice in neurodiversity in technology advocacy. They drive organic growth for brands and share their expertise on stages and publications, including Brighton SEO, SMX, SEMrush, and Uncrawl. And yeah, thank you so much, both of you. I'll hand it over to you. And yeah, thanks so much for joining me again today. I'm really looking forward to this one, and I know it's going to be awesome.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Bonjour, bonjour.
Hey. And may I also add, Myriam has a degree in sociology from the Sorbonne, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I felt that was relevant to the conversation because there's going to be a lot of that as well today. So neuroscience, sociology, and LLMs.
So let's get into it, because I think it's very interesting that you had to highlight, and I love it. Thank you. Great for my ego. But I love the fact that you highlight, I do have a few degrees from the Sorbonne in Paris. And when we say Sorbonne, first of all, you hear my accent. It's giving away that I'm very French. So you're like, okay, must be really French. And then you remember the Sorbonne, beyond being French, it's actually a great university. It's really well known. And then the authority bias kicks in. Because Giulia has these diplomas, because I have my diplomas, you will want to hear us a bit more. You will pay a bit more attention, and you will retain the information a bit more. And that's the authority bias. So what we're going to be talking about here today is how humans have almost always worked. And search keeps evolving, and we keep pretending that our behaviors are going to magically change with this new technology. No, let's go back to basics. That's what we're doing today. So Giulia, take it away.
Yeah, I feel like it's relevant to mention as well that what we're talking about today is search behavior, because I don't know if we have actually introduced it, but the conversation is all around that. But yes, as you mentioned, humans behave a certain way. We evolve a certain way, even in our way of searching, and LLMs and search engines in general try to keep up, right? And try to mirror some of these behaviors. I think when we look at humans and how they process information, how they make decisions, a lot of biases, as you mentioned, Myriam, come into play, where it's not only authority bias, there's a ton of other biases that, affect the way that we process information. And just to bring it back to a definition of bias, when a bias is an error in thinking, a systematic error in thinking, that affects essentially how we experience the word. I know, Myriam, that you have a colleague, Stephanie, who has done a lot of research on cognitive biases in the world of UX as well. So you're probably very tuned into.
Absolutely. What's really interesting about this, because generative AI is reshaping long-standing habits, and you may or may not notice. Here's why. The human body is not built for the world we evolved in. Human body transmits 11 million bits per second to the brain for processing. Holy moly, are we prone to error? There's just too much happening. We're overloaded. So what do we do with that information? And this is where it's getting even more interesting. Most of our thought processes are on autopilot. So you cannot eliminate the bias if you're not aware of it. That's why I highly recommend you pay attention to what Giulia just defined. You're not an exception. You're not the unicorn, okay? You're part of humanity and you're doing the same thing. All of that unconscious cognition, meaning like the perception, learning, memory, decision making, there are levels we're not necessarily aware of. So that is to say, sum it up, search habits are super hard to break. So when people are saying like Google is done, when you have a market share of like 1% of search being attributed to ChatGPT, for example, it's like, okay, cute, you're falling for another cognitive bias here, because just the way we're built, those search habits are really hard to break, and Google is going to be here for quite a while. Because once we find a reliable way to easily find information that we need, then it becomes instinctive. And that's what libraries are fighting against, because Google ate their lunch for sure. Yeah. Giulia, I'm sure.
I think you sum it up quite well. And what I like to, how do I like to express our search behaviors is that as humans, we tend to operate on 3 principles that are maximizing gains while minimizing losses and minimizing effort. Because as you mentioned, we have limited resources at the cognitive level, and there's so many stimuli that come our way, so many micro decisions that we have to do at all moments. So it's unrealistic for us to go and get all of the possible information about a choice and analyze all of the outcomes. So yes, we do tend to stick to search behaviors that work for us and that are according to these principles once we find them. And to be honest, maybe like you two can tell me if it's true for you as well. But I found myself relying a lot more on LLMs now, or even like when I do a search on Google, I tend to type it out no longer with the keywords, as we knew them. Now I go and type it out as a conversational query, knowing that it won't probably bring the same results as another query, like a shorter one, but it will give me the AI overview, especially if it's something that I don't care too much about, as in like, it's not a search that's, matter of life or death, or like that has significant implications for any of the areas of my life. Then I tend to be more conversational, because that's something that I've adapted to. And that's something that, I changed my behavior, but because it was giving me more of an advantage. So I think we are prone to change as long as it's advantageous for us. And that goes for search behaviors too.
I have a hot take on this. I don't think so. I know that we often agree, but I have to bring a nuance. I think that these technologies are aligning more naturally with the way we search as humans. So I think that you broke your brain trying to work with Google as a human, and that now that you have something that helps you be the way you naturally are, you're like, hey, let's do this. Because we all have that. No, actually, we do not. I met someone who does not have an inner monologue, but most of us, we have inner monologues, and you're like, I wonder if the Allosaurus was like 3 times smaller than the T-Rex. At least me, I do these things. And the answer is not 3, but yeah. So I will want to ask that question. And then I have to stop, break my process, and go Allosaur comparison T-Rex on Google, right? And then I have to refine my search, or I have to hope that I end up on an article that's good enough. Whereas right now, I can just say what comes up to my mind, or I can take a picture of, like the shirt Sean is wearing and go, I want this that in red. So it to me, it's not a change. Is that if you give people a technology that aligns, that feels more natural, is easier, takes up more less mental resources, we're going to flock to it. So Giulia, with my argument presented, yes or no, according to you?
It depends, as usual, in SEO.
Oh, it does.
I do agree with that take, actually. When you put it that way, it does make sense that we're going back to a pattern that's natural to us. Sean, how do you search?
Ooh, the taboo question.
Yeah, I thought it was a fascinating conversation. I didn't want to interrupt, but I think what was really interesting to me what was coming in my head is like, when we first became sort of the species we are today, we were kind of communicating in, grunts and stuff like this. So, this is what we're told. It just fascinated me how we've evolved and kind of where we, I don't want to go too deep down the rabbit hole. I find that interesting.
We're meat bags that are electrified, and look how far we've come, like that.
Yeah, but it's just how I search, Yeah, I find it more natural, obviously, with the conversational side, with the chat GPTs and stuff. I think like Miriam's right. So I think now you can just do the spelling mistakes. You can put any words in that come to mind. But yeah, fascinating conversation. I don't want to interrupt too much because I'm just finding it so interesting.
I have one of weird fascinating things for me. We were discussing this with Giulia, and I know that this is something we need to get, it's a sassy take, okay? Don't take it as academic, us explaining stuff. But LLMs also are starting to show some cognitive biases. Though, well, not just starting to, but they have some fundamental ones. So LLMs have hallucinations and humans have cognitive biases. They are processing and judgment inaccuracies, both of them. So when Giulia says that these technologies mirror us or reflect us, they're a pale reflection, but they truly are a reflection of how we operate in the world.
Yeah, and sometimes when you do a search, and probably experience that as well, you can see the LLM trying to mirror what they think your view is, or like they won't challenge your view unless you challenge them first. So they will pick up from the query, they will pick up biases or beliefs that are there. So for example, say, is this product better than this one? Can you tell me what you think about it? They will tend to kind of please you, or like tend to extract what they think the belief is based on the information they have, and then give back what they think complies with your belief. So it reinforces the confirmation bias essentially. And then if you challenge them, they will give you a different view. But that's another conversation that we had behind the scenes, Myriam, the one about that internet theory, which might into it. Would you like to explain it? I cannot.
So,
like, would you?
Yeah. So for many years now, I have been screeching rather like it's if I'm extra spicy, it's 3 times a year. If it's just me being baseline, it's once a year. I have these recurring things I will keep saying until people will catch on, and then I will be the angry grandpa going, I told you so. But I've been saying for quite a few years that we are entering a post-reality society, as described by the French philosopher Baudrillard. He was explaining that what we're dealing with is a society that's detached from reality. So when you look at a meme and you try to explain it to someone else going, why is this funny? You have to go 4 memes deep. And then it gets to the actual thing that started it all. And the thing that started it all doesn't matter anymore because we're all caught up in the memes. And it's the same for content online right now. We have bots that are taking like the top things that are working on Reddit, and instead of just reposting them blindly, there's AI that will modify the color of the cat that made everyone laugh, for example. And they're recombining comments and just putting it out there, and we end up in a situation where the internet is clogged to bots talking to themselves and for themselves, and humans are slowly retreating into tiny islands because we recognize what's not authentic. We stop conversing or engaging in spaces that don't feel authentic. So for example, and this is me, I am a millennial person, okay? I don't go on Instagram. I don't. It's a sad graveyard for me. And I know you can find some fun things in there, but no. And I'm just going to say one last thing. This is also something where we end up seeing even these bots that are killing the internet, they are mirroring how humans think. So most people think that Google is, well, the way we describe Google is the algorithm. First of all, this is wrong. But second of all, if you want to be super technical and pedantic about it, Google is more a heuristics type of approach. So Sean, I know you've heard that word, but most people don't understand what heuristics means. So we're just going to go slow. For you as a marketer, heuristics are rules of thumb, okay? The mental shortcuts that we all take in order to make a decision, especially when time is limited. Basic decision, okay? Do I take this route or that route? Now you trust it to Google Maps because it helps you make a decision faster. You trust that it will go faster for you. But we used to have to do a lot of this, and we still do. And it's kind of like when ChatGPT gives you a quick, plausible answer based on patterns it's seen before, rather than going deep, step by step, analyzing everything. It's taking shortcuts for you too, because it's paying attention to what you said, like Giulia explained. It's like, I can tell you're leaning more towards this. I'm going to give you what you want.
Yeah, and because you mentioned heuristics as well, I think the very powerful one, well, we got two actually. One, familiarity, we talked about it a lot, and we can talk for hours about that. We just tend to go with what we know best. So that's also another nuance to the new search behavior. Once we have done our rounds exploring and figuring out what we want based on search, then we tend to stick with that product or that service whenever something comes up, right? Because you don't change what wins, or like you don't change what works. And also it skins down all of the other intermediate evaluation that we would otherwise have to make when evaluating another product or service. But the other one I want to mention actually is social proof. I mean, everyone is familiar with social proof. We just feel safer when our choice is validated by other people. And because right now, with LLMs talking to each other and all of that, I think we have seen, and it's not the first time that we see this, but we've seen a progressive shift towards what in the moment presents the most, how do you say, like the most opportunity to connect with real people. Because we know that, for example, reviews can be gamed and a business can, bring up fake reviews and whatever. So we try to go to Reddit instead. If Reddit gets taken over as well, then we go to TikTok to get a sense of the organic, right? So yeah.
Wait. We have to get into gossip. We're going to make this time sensitive, but like, the Num 100 drama where everyone is going, we can, our rankers. Yeah, okay. No, I don't care. I really don't. What I do care about is that this feels like I'm reliving Twilight, okay? What do I mean by this? No, not the Twilight Zone. Twilight the movie, okay? It's like two dudes fighting over one really generic, confusing person. I'm looking at Kristen Stewart with that one face throughout the whole movie. You're like, y'all are fighting over this? Really? So let me explain. Reddit was not monetizable for many, many years. Like advertisers didn't care because you couldn't target the way you could with Facebook and with Instagram and with Twitter. Yeah, I'm still gonna call it Twitter, by the way. I don't care. But now Reddit is like Twilight because it's why the whole make that impossible for us. Because in order to actually surface the most hatred, Reddit thread had GPT be able to enter, we had to dig deep. And Google was like, no. I made an exclusive deal with Reddit. So everyone has access to the Reddit thing. They made bank, okay? They made deals with everyone, but Google has a specific deal. And the idea is that, no, we don't want you to take that SERP diversity away from us. You figure out your own thing. We can create a little filter in search if we want for opinions, for whatever else. But you're not going to use us as the bouncer or, the friend that does all the work for you and then make money off of us. No, we paid for that privilege. So yeah, I don't know if you two have been paying attention to this or not, if I'm by myself here, but I have opinions.
I don't know if you've seen this recently, but I was just sent a screenshot this morning about a Reddit result, which is now AI summarized. So even like the discussion, the entire thread is summarized within the meta description, which is not something I came across. I think while this is, it's dangerous for businesses, especially when it comes to, people go on Reddit to see if a business is legit or what an experience is with a service or product. And it can be quite misleading because people don't, like, if they have an answer within the meta description, they might not even like look at the different views. It was just like really new to me. But I do feel like if somebody is invested enough, they will go and seek different opinions, regardless of this shift. I do believe that it has to do with the ultimate goal because we're not puppets. We don't just go with what represents the least effort. I think it depends on what we want to obtain. In that case, we do go and seek for authoritative source or original sources and all of that kind of stuff. So I think there will be always this kind of pattern where we try and get out of these guardrails that search engines give us in order to, I guess they want to make the choice easier for some, but there are ways to expand and to reevaluate.
And to take it a bit further here, I want to get it. our personal problem with Julia and I, when we go on these things, we can talk about academic stuff for a very long time, but what we love to do is tell people, how do you connect the dots? Exactly like she said, hey, we're not going to take the path of least resistance when the reward is not as good as we wanted, okay? We need that dopamine and we need to feel like we're in control as marketers. So concretely, what does that mean? It means that you have to engineer content and provide a user experience that will reduce friction, enhance, the perceived relevance. How trustworthy are you? How good are you for me? And build authority. Because I'm old enough to remember that the web used to be a place where you go onto the web. You're going to go onto a website. And now we don't have to go on the website. So what I tell people is create a website that is a destination that people want to go into, because no amount of Reddit summary or ChatGPT answers is going to rival what you're offering on there. And obviously, that's not easy, okay? That's not easy. But if you're not dedicated to that part of the user experience you're going to provide, that's fine. But here's how you can actually reach humans, okay? And this is where I'm going to talk about chunking and semantic triples and all the stuff you've seen on LinkedIn, okay? Yeah, I keep reading these things. I'm like, yeah, so we have this saying in French, and I'm going to keep it very PG, making love to a fly is behind, okay? So that means that it's a fruitless endeavor. Yeah, Sean, if you reversed it in proper British slang, you understood. I believe it may involve the someone named Roger, maybe, okay? So all this to say, see, I don't think that machines can do this. They cannot connect the dots this way. But if you want to provide something good that works for machines and for humans, you're not going to say stuff like, our software, designed by a world-class team, helps companies unlock their potential by providing cutting-edge analytics and streamlining complex workflows. No, please stop doing that. That is human marketing slop, okay? Because LLMs have to infer what the software actually does. What does unlocking potential mean? I don't know. Do you? Because nobody does. That's why I keep trying to unlock stuff. So if you want to be more simple, you have to consider the fluency heuristics. So if something is easy to read, see, or understand, the brain treats it as more credible. And this actually sucks, because simple, plain language that you keep repeating, all those little tricks, they will mess with our mind, because we're going to trust it since it's easier. And we see this in politics quite a lot. That's all I'm going to say, okay? And this really worries me. So what do you do to deal with that? That's where the semantic triples come in, okay? Semantic triples are structured in a way that you can express facts using a simple format, like a 5-year learning to speak, subject, predicate, object. An example of this is OpenAI developed ChatGPT. The end. It's a structured format to feed LLMs to help them ingest, process, and reference information. So it's less ambiguous. It ensures factual consistency. So you keep saying, it's a single standardized source of truth for a brand, and it helps optimize the knowledge graph. So I'm saying that there's two really strong ends to the spectrum. One, marketer is trying to wow you and capture your attention and have a hook. And then the other end is like, please just speak in simple sentences that my brain can understand. And that tension will always be felt. So my one piece of advice after all of this is start small to test this. Go in your about page and make the sentences simpler, okay? Half of the stuff I read on there makes no sense. I can tell you're trying to impress me and you're failing. It's cringe. Okay, rant over.
What?
These go.
Go on.
No, go, Sean.
I was saying why, because it makes sense, doesn't it, what you're saying? But why, of all these years that have gone by without this sort of new world that we live in being forced to do that, why were we doing that in the first place? Because it looks fancy, because it's fancy words,
because it works. Because as long as it works, as marketers, we are going to beat a dying horse until it's a zombie, and then we will still try to prop up the zombie, because that's what we do. And then there's another track where we want to innovate. Oh, Julia, take it away.
Oh, no, I was just going to bring up an anecdote, but that maybe it's relevant to the reason why we're doing this, which is when I started in SEO, one of the leading theories was to rank on top, you have to take the first 5 results and rewrite what they write and then add a bit of information on it, right? So I think we got to a point where we fluff up a lot of stuff to make it sound interesting or to make it sound like we're doing something more than our competitors. But then in the end, it becomes confusing. And I think this also is like a good segue to go into images. Because, for example, this has to do as well with the way that we process stuff that's on a page. And there is so many studies done with eye tracking where people try to put, an element here, and like they try to, put a lot of stuff in the same asset. And then studies see that we cannot actually see part of the ad, for example, part of the creative. We cannot see the CTA because we tend to focus on one image or like one element of the image. So I feel like we're moving towards simpler is better right now, because we need to make it not only easy for LLMs to understand, but also humans. We got too far with the fluff.
And it ties into 2 things, and then I have a question for you, Sean. The first thing is, as marketers, we like to optimize, right? Right? We love that word, optimization. But what is optimization? It's slicing the salami in like 1,000 really thin slices that we're going to improve. But the problem is that you're improving one thing and missing the whole system, and then we get bored with it. So what you're trying to do by optimizing is not necessarily creating something new, but iterating on what exists. And there comes a point where it's the 80-20% rule. You're spending like 80% of your time and efforts to optimize that last 20% when you could just be building something brand new that will get you a lot more out there. So what I'm trying to say is we have this drive to keep optimizing something to death, but then on the other end, we're dealing with that tension, and that tension has a name, okay? It's the von Restorff effect, okay? So if something stands out from the noise, it will get noticed. And that's why we always have new hooks. Like, I know right now, it's not the newest hook, it's the most annoying one for me. But food content creators, I will go, if you take 1 egg and cottage cheese and mix it together and then insert 50 more steps, it's like, you get this delicious, and you look at the thing, you're like, I wasted so much time. And who speaks like that? Who starts saying like, if you take 1 egg and cottage cheese? No, that doesn't make them more exciting, okay? That worked maybe for a little bit on the internet, and then everybody caught on to that bandwagon, and now everyone is describing these recipes this way, and it sounds, once again, cringe. So there's this cycle of, we want to optimize to death, then we realize there's a new hook that works, or we create it, we also optimize it to death, and then it continues and continues. So my question for you, Sean, is, do you have kids?
Do I have what, sorry?
Do you have children?
Yeah.
Okay. So are your children young or a bit older?
Yeah, they're both quite young, yeah.
Okay, it actually will not change. You will always have this as a parent, but the first thing when you have small kids and you look up and they're not anywhere, or you don't find them fast, you're worried, right? Because that's the first thing your eyes do. They're gonna go look for the kid, your baby. So what we do as humans, when we look at machines, we have a hierarchy of objects we look at. We start with human faces. Not only that, but Giulia has a really good point about this. It doesn't really need to be human, does it, Giulia?
It does not need to be human. However, there's different reactions. So I think actually you have a good slide about this. I'm trying to find it because we
go
came,
for it. So I'm gonna just remind everyone, like, when I say, hey, it doesn't necessarily have to be human, that doesn't mean it has to be a radish. It has to be a radish that kind of looks like it has a human face. Our brain will react the same way. Did you find this slide?
I did.
Let's go. So what you don't see behind the scenes is that we actually have a whole deck for you. So maybe, Sean, we can pass it along as a link once this is done, because it's in your color.
Yeah, I will. I'll put a link in the description. It actually reminds me of as we get started up, because I'm into all this kind of thing, the face on Mars, like when they see this sort of thing on Mars, and that's probably, it might not be a face, but obviously everyone kind of looks at it and think that's a face.
Yes, this is that. 100%. There are studies on this. We as humans seek out human faces. And the effect we're referencing is the N170. It's a brain signal that just, it's I had that slide in mind. So
Yeah.
this is a slide that shows you see how I put in a photo, it's a product picture, okay? I put it in Google Cloud Vision API. So it's a tool that Google offers that you can buy. You can understand that they most likely use it as well. That why does it go here? Look at the photo. The photo is this smiling woman in a full dress. An image vision will analyze it. The machine vision will go, I am 99% sure that this person is expressing joy. That is the first thing you are shown in the tool. And then it moves on to objects, then it moves on to labels, and then it moves on to other, search nerd stuff. But we have a hierarchy with 7 big elements in there normally, okay? And number 1 is not even detecting a human, it's detecting a human-like emotion that you can find somewhere. So this is very important because it impacts the way we search. It impacts how we do marketing as well. I'm not convinced that Zara will ever be able to show up in searches for fun summer dresses based on how upset their models always look. Okay? I know it's the Zara brand. I know it's the Zara style. It's even a meme on the internet. It's an internet challenge where you have to pose like one of them going, but it is true. This is fundamentally changing how we search. Julia, I let you continue. Sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, no. So yeah, just to circle back on the effect that we see when we see a face. The N170 is this pattern of brainwaves that we notice when we see a face, but not only a biological face, even as you mentioned, like face configurations. It can be an object that looks like a face, 2 eyes, a mouth, something like that. It's something that has been actually that's something that's been showed in many studies. So yeah, it's no wonder that we actually react to faces when we look at a creative. And that's the reason why there's other studies with eye tracking, for example, that show how our attitude towards a product, our memory towards it, changes positively when we spot a face, when the product is associated with a face in the creative. And not only that, but even when the model or the actress, whatever, looks towards the product, it makes these sensations or like these feelings even better, like more positive. So human faces have got a massive power in marketing. You did mention, Myriam, the study that I did based on like how we react to faces. So I'm just going to go into it real quick.
Please do that. I look forward to it because it is one of those things where we each have our own research and interest and then we collide and it's just, please pay attention to this slide.
Yeah, so this is one study that I started running in 2024, and it was based on the fact that everyone was saying that marketing was dead, AI was going to take over, and I'm a person that deals with data, not with opinions much. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to see if that's true, because I believe that the human edge will always be there based on like all these other studies that look at human faces and whatever. So I was determined to find out if we can discriminate or we can't human faces, for example. So I started with one concept that quickly told me that it wasn't the right set of stimuli. So I just skimmed down, used just faces. So you can see like these one, I don't know if there's a clicker, but like this is a biological face as a live person face. These 2 are AI generated. Obviously, like you can tell here, this one is a little trickier to detect, especially if you see it for a short time because it's hyper realistic. And this one came from a validated source as well, a validated database. So what I did was I measured the electrodermal activity to these faces because the electrodermal activity tells us the subthreshold activation. So it tells us that our nervous system is activating. It can be a measure of stress. It can be a measure of familiarity. It tells us that something is happening, but it doesn't tell us what. As in, like, sometimes it triggers because it's something that we experience as a negative thing. So we can have higher electrodermal activity for these like brands, for example, or for familiar faces. So it's like the balance of the feeling that we experience cannot be determined by this measure alone, but it tells us that something's happening. So my concept was okay, I'm going to measure the electrodermal activity to see if there's a difference in the way that we experience human faces versus AI faces. And if there is one, I want to know at what point do we stop reacting to one or the other, because I based this on the studies on Uncanny Valley. So
I need my word to come up. I was so waiting.
Yeah, and now it's super relevant. A lot of people talk about the Uncanny Valley because there's so much of hyper-realistic AI that goes around, right? But this is a term that goes back to the 70s. So this robotics professor, Masahiro Mori in Tokyo, was working on his hyper-realistic robots. And what he noticed was that even though his robots were trying to mimic biological movement and even expression like human expressions, they didn't connect, or like the audience, the people, the real people that were interacting with these robots weren't actually displaying a good attitude towards them. And he called this effect the Uncanny Valley. Like as something becomes more familiar, but is not quite 100% there in terms of human likeness, we tend to have this dipping likability, the valley, right? So that goes, for example, for robots that are anthropomorphic but are not quite there in terms of realism. It goes for corpses as well. So it's something that our brain tries to categorize as human, but can tell at a point, actually, no, this is not. So there's like this reaction.
I have to interrupt because it is one of my personal conspiracy theories. So I have some opinions that I like put aside that are not data backed. Okay. But so you see how Giulia and I kind of diverge on this. Giulia will test it. And I'm out here going, I have an opinion on this. And sometimes it's reversed, but Uncanny Valley for me is very fascinating. It's something I think about a lot because where does it come from? Do you understand that this is an instinct, Sean? This is something that we measure, but this is something that is within us. But for an instinct to develop, that takes quite a while, okay, at a human scale, like humanity, not a person. So we all have this. And those of us who don't are more prone to actually untimely demises, okay? And what I'm trying to say is that this is one of these instincts that basically screams, you're going to die, move. And how do we get that? How did we ever end up in our evolution in a situation where something looked like us, but would eat us or kill us? And this is one of those things where when people go, it's robotics, it's all of this, and don't worry, we're going to get used to it. The threshold is going to lower and we're going to tolerate this. Good luck fighting evolution, marketers. Like, good luck with that.
I just say, like, fascinating. I think, one, I believe in like a joint consciousness. I believe that we're all connected in that sense. I believe that may be where we get a lot of our senses from and that kind of thing. But also what was interesting, because obviously I totally agree with all the points raised, but, it is evolving very quickly. We've seen in the last week around Tilly Norwood, this actress that they've generated with AI, trying to pitch it into films, and there's a lot of controversy around it in Hollywood. But, and I thought, it's going to be very obvious. But actually, if you watch the clips, it's extremely realistic and actually could definitely be a real person. And when I've been playing around with Mid-Journey, it used to be very obvious and there was no connection behind it. But when I started playing around with it, especially the latest stuff with Sora and Mid-Journey, it is extremely realistic, and actually it does. There are things inside of me, emotions that are kind of, something's happening that I wouldn't had before. I don't know how to explain it, but
I believe this. I see it. But Giulia's highlighted something about the familiarity bias. We are okay with the fantasy. We are okay with pretending, like plausible deniability. But at some point, that actress or that AI influencer will do a tiny thing that will make the mask slip. And that actually, once again, I have an opinion, this will trigger even more reaction out of us. So instead of having an obvious, like, this is a robot and I'm not okay with it, we'll have these tiny glitches that will accumulate and go, and then we'll wonder why that star has gone out of style. And I think that this is what, yes, so Giulia?
Yeah, no, I was about to say that these tiny glitches, these are the ones that trigger the uncanny valley, because the uncanny valley comes from the fact that our brain, which is used to patterns, spots an outlier and is like, okay, this is something that you have to pay attention to because it's not matching, either way that was going to categorize this. So it's a category uncertainty that triggers the uncanny valley. And the uncanny valley is actually associated to higher electrodermal response. What I saw in this experiment actually was contradicting the literature. So the literature that I studied, which was around the uncanny valley triggering this reaction, this heightened reaction in the nervous system, came from a few years ago, right? Like we're talking about 10, 20 years ago, when CGI was probably not at its infancy, but it's not as realistic as now. And what I noticed in my study actually was that the heightened response was for the human face, because, and that goes for that was significantly higher than both of the faces. So both of the realistic and the CGI. And my theory around that, even looking at more studies that have tried to replicate the uncanny valley, have been, now we have adapted as humans, we have gotten attuned to what's not real, but tries to mimic us. So we are more aware of these tiny glitches that we tend to spot quite instantaneously. That depends, of course, on how exposed we are to AI and CGI and so on. But that's kind of a measure of our adaptability as humans. So we develop this instinct, but we can also further develop it to pick up on more subtle differences. So yeah, it's a really interesting phenomenon, but I think we have an edge as humans.
Giulia, do you mind jumping to the co-occurrence audit? Because this is a great jump off point to talk about something that marketers can actually do when it comes to images. Okay, so those things, it's a co-occurrence audit, but I love to call it the manly marshmallows because this is the picture that triggered it for me. Okay, so I was in the Luxembourg supermarket, and I know that this may seem a bit confusing, but you have a barbecue brush up there and you have some charcoal, and in the middle of it, in the middle of the barbecue aisle, you have these big, black, burly, manly barbecue marshmallows. What? I'm sorry, but why would I pay a premium for a product that I can find in the candy aisle next to the kids' stuff? And what's very interesting is that once you know your audience, you know what you should have around you to scream, this is barbecue. So for example, these marshmallows, they scream barbecue because they're surrounded by barbecue stuff. But not only in text, the packaging itself is screaming barbecue season. It's not screaming hot cocoa for your grandma. It is screaming barbecue. So it's equivalent to, I know that I had a friend, I still have that friend, I really appreciate her, but she has one weird quirk. Before she got married, she would evaluate if she wants to go on a date with someone that she just met. Because once again, French, okay? We get stopped in the street, we get asked for numbers, and it for better or for worse, but like ambitious people. And so she would check out a man's shoes before deciding to say yes or no, because she was really into shoes and she would know how much the shoes are worth, but also, is he maintaining them properly? Are they scuffed? This, that, the other thing. And that's what we do as humans for very specific things, and we don't always notice it. So my piece of advice, take your top 5 lifestyle photos on your sites and upload them to an LLM and use the object detection feature, or you can use the object detection feature because both of them have machine vision, okay? Google Cloud Vision API or LLMs. And for an LLM, you'll use a prompt. For Google, you just need to analyze what is the output. It's like list every single object you can identify in this image. Based on these objects, describe the person who owns them. Because if you're going to do a video, if you're going to create product photos, and I see the gears, the wheels turning in your head, Sean, I know you get it. You're going to do that and you're going to tell me your luxury and the person has a watch that is like screaming $12. You're not going to convince me you're successful, okay? Just like I got started a video and I don't know why I keep being targeted by these like alpha male content things online. I at this point, I'm kind of flattered that I'm like the zebra into the horse stable, but this dude with a bucket hat, like a Kangol bucket hat from the 90s telling me that he is like the efficiency or I don't remember what the word was, monk He's like, you have to divest yourself of this and focus. And I'm staring at him and I cannot function because there's a Kangol bucket hat on top of that head, okay? Nothing he will say will convince me that any of this could be relevant to me. It can't. So it's the same, like these little things that trigger us. So look at the images on your site and see if they reinforce the sentiment, if they reinforce what you're about. Julia, when you look at her slides, you will always have a little brain in them. And I don't mean zombie style, a tiny, cute, adorable little brain. So that's what we mean, okay? That's how we roll. For me, for Neurospicy, I didn't want to go with the brain, but you will have a little spicy pepper in the logo. Same game. We're trying to communicate messages with images. And an image to me and a video is so amazing because I could spend 1,000-word article describing an image, or I could just show it to you, and all the meaning, all of the concepts are already in there.
Yeah, I think with this image, you bring out the matter of context as well, because what I think about it here is, we had the barbecue stuff, but then if somebody, I don't know how they feel about barbecues in Luxembourg specifically. I know that in the UK, you wouldn't immediately think about marshmallows. So you have to put them in context for me to consider them, because otherwise I'm like, yeah, I'm going to grill meat. But I think it's also like helpful to put things in context, which, to be honest, LLMs don't do well enough yet. So they're trying to catch up, I feel, but I haven't come across an LLM that has been great at putting things into context or at taking into account all of the different nuances. Maybe we're getting there, I don't know. But I think that's where, as humans, still have, the ace on our sleeve.
You've kind of been saying all along, but the LLMs, it seems to me like, because so many, more people are using it and it's costing a lot of money, a lot of resource to keep going, they're trying to find cutbacks. Is that that's gonna bring in more biases and stuff like that down the line, I would presume, that just trapped
So
in the
hot take here. Yes and no, and let me explain to you why. Right now, people are looking at this thinking it's magic. And what's the most saddest thing we can get? Something losing its sparkle. And if the thing is not actually magic and we start to notice what the trick is, not only that, but the trick is actually getting less and less good each time instead of improving, what do? We get bored and we move along. First example of this is, and I know that most of us are on the cusp here. So some people that will listen to this, I will have to describe to you what a BlackBerry is, okay? Kim Kardashian used to be obsessed with her BlackBerry, wanting to maintain it forever. It was this thing that has been described as if a phone and a typewriter were meshed together, okay? A tiny keyboard that none of us could type, but we loved it. We hung on to it. And BlackBerry should have been aware that Apple was coming and that it was, and no, he kept investing in that hardware going, no. People are going to love the tiny keyboards that are impossible to manage. And no, we got bored of the magic. We got bored, something more interesting, more magical came along, and we moved on. So for me, these LLMs, everyone says that it's the future. First of all, I think it's one of those where everyone has put so much money into this that first, AI is not just LLMs, but right now it feels like it. The second thing is, it's almost too big to fail right now. It's like we're making this a reality whether you want it or not. Kind of like Mean Girls, fetch is happening no matter what. But it's not. It's not, because the more you degrade, the more you route and choose to give simple answers where the person's context dictated that they actually expected more, the more you disappoint them, and they're going to find something that is less disappointing to them.
Yeah. Also, you mentioned Mean Girls. It's funny because it's October 3rd today, which is Mean Girls Day. Not relevant to the...
No, I think it is absolutely relevant. The reason why I say this is we're also ending up in a situation where if you can provide information that is sloppy, okay, and good information takes a long time, okay, like what Julia and I are talking about in an hour, we spent more than 15 years of our careers building, okay? Fast doesn't happen as fast as you think. And it's one of those situations where we see that information and media are getting consolidated into like these islands of propaganda at the end of the day. And it's harder and harder to be heard because LLMs just make everything like compressed, lose nuance, and a bit sadder, a bit more mediocre. It's something that I ask my clients whenever they want to do an LLM related project, like where they use the LLM output. I'm like, what comfort of mediocrity are you okay with? What level of mediocrity are you comfortable with? What are you okay with? And like, what do you mean? I'm like, it's not going to make things better. It's going to make them faster. And it's going to lose something in the meantime. It's going to lose some quality. It's like taking a photocopy of a photocopy of a photocopy. It ends up blurry. So you have to be aware of this. And either we learn to make the most out of this and these technologies actually enter the mainstream for real and stick around, or they are going to disappear the way we see them right now and transform into something else for better or for worse. What I mean for better is it's more useful to us as humans. We're going to keep on using it even more, or it's just going to be dreadfully boring and normal, like a cotton pad to remove makeup is.
Yeah.
I sure we go on to what I am very interested in that side, because when I've done a video recently on Wikipedia, which has all sorts of problems in my opinion.
Oh my God, yes.
But it is one of the most sourced platforms for the data and everything like that. So you've got all those problems within that platform. We've talked about Reddit as well, and then you've got X and blah, blah, blah. And then that's kind of being used as the training data. And like I say, I'm just concerned that, like you say, it's going to become sort of same sort of, we're going to have this closed off because they don't want to keep going out to the live stuff because it costs money. We're just going to have this closed in platform again that's just saying the same old garbage, just in a kind of small, cleaner way, you know.
So I have something to say about this, and we're going to zoom by this, I promise, okay? So first of all, you have to consider the context. So right now, what are we using it for? So I don't know are you seeing my screen or not at all? I don't know how that works.
But we can.
You want me to drive? Is there a...
Yes, please.
Yeah, hang on.
And basically, I want to talk about what kind of shortcuts ChatGPT and other generative AI platforms are giving us, okay? So this is something that we really need to map out to better understand how humans are going to adapt their behavior to them and see if they're going to make or break, okay? So
Right.
when we're talking about, yes?
I don't see numbers, so stop me when I'm there, please.
So like I said, this thing gives us shortcuts, and the way we make decisions it's not linear, it's not rational. So it's not this one, but that was a good one. You can audit your packaging because now we're taking pictures of it.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay.
Yes. So defining and articulating the information we need. I used to work as a librarian, and let me tell you, the amount of human disappointment I received every day was incredible. I was just, my day was filled with the random questions people would ask me, and I'm like, that's not even a sentence. We're going to work through this, okay? I used to be the human Google, and now people can do this more easily. Not only that, but they're able to overcome information gaps and keyword foraging problems. If you've never heard of keyword foraging, it's when we try to figure out the thing we're looking for because we don't have the right words to look for it. Oh, that sounds a bit vague though. So do you see the little image here? We have a little hand holding a pen or a marker in my slide. I love that style. I was obsessed with it for a bit. What would you call that, Sean? Like if I were to put words in the canva.com search bar to find this image, what would you say?
Yeah, I mean, hand holding, I would call it a Sharpie, but that's an American thing. But
and what's the style of that photo?
Oh God, yeah, that's a good one.
Exactly.
Grayed out, yeah, black and white version. Yeah, I don't.
So I took a screenshot of my slides, and I was like, hey, Perplexity, can you tell me what this is called in Canva? Because I need to look for this style. It's like, actually, that's called halftone. Done. My whole deck is halftone now. Cool. So that's what I mean by overcoming keyword foraging problems. But then it also helps us weigh and select credible sources, which I have opinions about, as we've seen, reread it. But still, sifting through enormous amounts of information, the deep search to do some stuff for us. Scanning through long pages of text. Oh, my favorite feature right now is Google Chrome. You can go on Google Chrome, and in the options, at least on my mobile phone, okay, I can go listen to the article. And it's like a man and a woman's voice talking and bickering about the article, or the best one is to, like those YouTube videos where people react to Reddit threads or narrate them. Yeah, now Chrome does it for me. It doesn't read the article. It's not an accessibility feature this way. It actually sums up the article and gives the key main points that it detects. So it distorts the information. But my goodness, does it really help scan through those long pages of opinions on the SVGs, for example. That was me yesterday. So comparing contradicting perspectives from different sources could be something that they do. And as Giulia said, you actually have to ask them to do that first and synthesize or store information. So this is also great for me. I get to remember some stuff, hide it away, or when I'm having a conversation with it, it will remember the context. Fantastic. Can you move one slide over? Because when we're talking, keep going, when we're talking about all of these behaviors, what genuinely changes with these? Okay, so keep going. You're gonna hit a Monstera plan. So when we're trying to make decisions, we're gonna find more stuff. Giulia, just hit one more. That is not a plant, I believe. We're keep going. That's a Cetaphil packaging. What am I looking? This one, the Monstera plant. You see the leaf?
Yeah.
What are we using these tools for? What changed in search? Because that's the key topic, right? We have the ability to now quickly capture and identify stuff. So for moments when you need instant answers, what plant is this? What visual style is this? It avoids technical descriptions like the one you tried to go through, Sean. You felt how painful that was. We have a fix for it. Next one. What else do we have? This was made by my designer friend. This is actually a Brighton SEO seagull, just letting you know. This was not a canva.com, but visual comparison. It helps us make informed decisions by comparing what we see. Okay, so for example, if I love a hairstyle, I can go, hey, what is this? It replaces the complex descriptions and measurements. So for example, I go, hey, what is, I don't know, like Selena Gomez's haircut? Can it actually fit on my face, etc.? Okay, next one. Information processing. It turns visual data into actionable insights. I show it my fridge and I'm like, hey, can you find me some recipes? So you heard what I said though, huh? Share it with people you love. You don't ask these things to make up a recipe for you. You ask them to come up with the best recipes it finds online. Okay. We need humans that actually have had food in their mouth to tell us how to make it. Okay. So that skips manual typing and model searching. I don't have to come up with something that I could make. I don't have to be a chef. Next one. Modification search. Finding exactly what I want with precise attributes. So yeah, I would love that coffee table, but like in gold and metal, not in just glass, for example. So this means that you don't have to look for parts numbers, prevents compatibility issues because you can finally take a picture of your printer and say, find me the cartridges I need instead of buying the wrong ones. Sorry, that's a personal pet peeve of mine. I actually bought something where I inject the ink instead. This is something that you can download. You can take a photo of that QR code and it will lead you to a not as pretty Google Sheets recapping all of these visual behaviors if you're interested. So when we talk about changing behaviors, that's nice, but I want you to understand exactly why people are changing their behavior. Feels just more natural, you better plan for it. And one of the things that is very simple that you can do visually if you're in e-commerce. If your dress has pockets, if your pants have deeper pockets for men, take a photo showing the pocket with the hand in it or something so we know there's a pocket. Because if you check keyword volume, people want pockets, okay? Just I think the pocket thing in e-commerce is being left behind, and that's a shame. Okay, well, thank you very much for hearing me with this rant. And do you think that makes sense, Giulia?
Yes. Working for an e-commerce, I think pockets are important. I think Mingers Day is important, and I think, what? Wait, no, it's not Wednesday. Therefore, it's a Friday. I don't know what they were on a Friday, but I believe
on Wednesday. No, on Wednesday we wear pink. On Wednesday we wear pink. Yes. Well, Sean, I think we have given you a lot to think about for sure. If you can you stop sharing the screen, Giulia? I want to take a photo of the thing, even though I know where it leads. But Sean, if you have to recap what we've brought to you, what are the key elements that just connected for you? I don't
No,
know
I
if
think
you
it's
want-
amazing, the evolution of like how things are going, but also like some of the consistencies there. But before we go, I'm really interested in kind of like your take in like the near future, because like I was just using Google Live, like the live form, talking to it as I scroll through the website. There's Apple with all these sort of patterns on tracking more your eye, and there's also patterns out there for your brain and kind of controlling your screen and all that sort of thing. Where do you see like all that kind of advancing, and how do you think that's going to, if at all, change people's kind of behaviors, or do you think it's like a natural evolution of things?
My personal hot take is that I have ADHD. Okay, so that's not a surprise. Existing in this world is exhausting for me. And when we say ADHD, it's not that I have an attention deficit. I have too much attention and it goes everywhere. So you take me to a restaurant and I am going to be listening in without meaning to all the conversations around me and struggle to focus on the one I am having with the person in front of me. If I'm in a plane and somebody is watching your movie four rows down, I'm still aware of it. I can't help it. So when I see studies coming out saying that short format content for, TikTok and YouTube and Instagram is making people feel overwhelmed, and that there are more and more diagnostics of like ADHD, I'm always wondering, have the rest of the humans been put through the ringer the way I have now because of social media trying to like overclock our own internal CPU? And as Giulia said, I think that what comes next is maybe people going, I am tired, boss. I'm tired. I need things to be a bit simpler, okay? And I need them to make sense. I can't keep running like I'm running ragged. My bandwidth is out. So when we consider this as marketers, focus on the message your images are sending to humans to convert better, but also understand how machines are interpreting this. When you record a video, make sure that I know that I have the world's saddest background, but if I were to tell you that I'm in Denmark, maybe have a little like Danish flag or something going on, So if we were, for example, to all pretend that this is a studio environment, is this a studio environment? No, it's not. We can tell. So pay attention to the millions of messages that you're sending in the content you produce beyond the obvious that you want to pass or out, because humans process all of these bits, okay? 11 million bits of information are being sent out from our own bodies that we have to deal with as well. So yeah, I think focus on multimodal content, meaning every single mode that as humans we tend to use, but also not dumbing down, but make it easier to access for overclocked brains and LLMs that are as nuanced as we are, okay? So I know you're trying to convince and be very cool and explain that you're better than the other competitor. Don't tell me with fluffy words. Maybe show me, maybe take the time to actually figure out why I care about this and reflect that. Giulia, what's your opinion?
So I think for the near future, it's easy to get distracted with a lot of new shiny things. And I think especially when there's a lot of data that we can leverage in order to connect with the user and understand what they think, how they do it, it's really easy to get a lot of data and not knowing where to focus. I would still summarize it as try to remove frustrations and obstacles from the users to you, and find like the data that is the one that tells you where they encounter frustration. And these can, you don't need, advanced brain data to figure out that they might want a return policy on your website. You can ask them, literally. So obviously, I do think that there's enhanced data that can tell us and can make us predict what the general behavior towards search and towards, other patterns of behavior might be. And that can be used in order to build better campaigns or, predict where success might be. But I feel like sometimes people tend to forget the basics. So go back to the basics. Try to make things simpler for the user and for LLMs, as Myriam says. And then you can focus on everything else, really, on trying to get more of what they're attuned to and try to get more attention, more connection, and more emotional engagement.
Yeah, I love it. And the image stuff, like, yeah, they saying the clocks are going in my head. That was definitely a switch on moment now. I was definitely thinking about things when you said that. And yeah, I'm the same with you. I get distracted. That's why I'm starting talking about faces on Mars and stuff. My mind goes all sorts of places when people are talking, and it's a curse and a gift at the same time, I guess.
As long as you can monetize it, it's a gift. If you can't, it's a curse to live through that.
Yeah, you're two of my favorite people in the industry, and a lot of stuff I just trying to get my head around, but I think it's fascinating, and I totally agree. Like, I think a lot of people are, especially with COVID, I think it was an overload of just so many things. They're trying to distract with screens and mobiles and all sorts of things, and people haven't really got out of that since then. And now we are starting to feel overwhelmed. I mean, I've dropped most of my social media, and I know a lot of people kind of going on that as well, kind of just dropping out of social media. So I think
Dead internet.
Yeah. So yeah. But yeah, interesting. Thank you both so much, and hopefully we can speak again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. À bientôt.